week's ASMR video. Today I wanted to go through some of my coffee stuff, and I have done this in the past, but I am super excited to report that I was included in a Rhinesy ASMR collab video, which is so cool. I'm so thankful for that opportunity, and somebody came from Rhinesy's channel to mine and saw my previous coffee video and mentioned that it was a little fast and chaotic, so I am going to tone things down this time and talk about my brewing methods and equipment a little bit more slowly and calmly. So the first thing that I wanted to show you is this airtight container. If you don't have one of these, I strongly recommend you get one. You don't have to get this one, although it is really cool. You turn the top to suck the air out of the container. Keep your coffee beans safe from oxidation. And when you're ready to brew, you hit this button up here, and it releases the air and the wonderful smell. So the reason that I think this is important is because when oxygen gets to your beans, it oxidizes all the compounds in there, and it can denature some of the flavonoids, which are chemical compounds that give coffee and other things their flavor. And it basically makes the coffee go stale, and it won't taste as good. So, super important if you want fresh coffee. Paired with this, I recommend a coffee grinder. So this is my coffee grinder that I use every single morning. Except on Fridays, my wife and I get coffee from either a coffee chain or a coffee shop on Fridays. So, this is a manual coffee grinder. Basically, you swing this arm out and take this rubber stopper out and put the coffee beans in there, plug it up, and then grind away. The coffee grounds fall into this cup, and then you brew your coffee. So, why do I think a coffee grinder is so important? For a lot of the same reasons that I think the airtight container is important. The biggest thing is keeping oxygen away from your coffee. And while a airtight container like that is great for achieving that, if you put coffee grounds in there, every time oxygen gets to those coffee grounds, it's going to denature some of those compounds, oxidize some of those compounds, and your coffee is going to go stale much more quickly. So it's really important, if you want the freshest coffee possible, to buy whole coffee beans and grind them right before you brew. You can get an electric grinder. They are significantly more expensive, especially for the same quality grind and the same consistency grind, which is really important. And they're much noisier, but they are more convenient. You don't have to stand there and grind your coffee every single morning like I do. This manual grinder is very expensive, but you can get a decent one for around $50 to $100, which might seem like a lot, but I think it's worth it. So you can get a really affordable one, which is totally fine. But a lot of the time they won't reach the proper temperature. And if you don't brew at the proper temperature, if the temperature is too low, you will get acidic coffee. So if you find that your coffee is too acidic, the issue might be the water temperature. There are other things that can affect it too. Your grind size might be too big if you're using a coffee grinder. But water temperature in a drip machine is usually the issue. So this is a thermal carafe from the Breville Precision Pro, I think it's called. That is wildly expensive too, and the only reason I have it is because a friend gave it to me. I would not recommend spending that much money on a drip coffee machine unless you have a lot of money to throw away on a coffee machine. And if you do, that's great. I would definitely recommend it because I love this coffee machine. Yeah, so these are very convenient, but they can be expensive for a really good one. Also, highly recommend a thermal carafe. When you have a glass carafe, you usually have a hot plate underneath, and when you continuously heat up coffee, that can burn the coffee, and it can also, overheating coffee can also break down the plant walls of the cells of the coffee plant. And those pieces get really bitter. So if you have really bitter coffee, the issue might be your temperature is too high, or your grind size is too small. Okay, so that is the drip coffee machine. Now I have a few manual coffee brewing methods that I love to use. I think they're fun to do, and I think they tend to make better coffee. First, I have this Chemex. This is kind of a big pour-over coffee maker, I guess, if you want to call it that. It's like a big pour-over gun. So you put a paper filter in here, and then you put your grounds in, and then you pour hot water over the top. And I will show you what I use. Oh, here it is. I have stuff all around me because I'm very disorganized. So for a lot of these manual brewing methods, you're going to want a gooseneck kettle. It looks like a gooseneck. And basically what that does is it lets you direct water to a very specific spot on the grounds bed. If you do end up buying one of these brewing methods, a Chemex or the other ones that I'm about to show you, I definitely would recommend getting one of these and looking up the proper brewing method, because there is a right and wrong way to do it. When you're getting a gooseneck kettle, I recommend getting one with a thermometer so you can keep track of your water temperature. As I mentioned, water temperature plays an important role in how your coffee tastes and how quickly those compounds, including caffeine, get extracted. So, ideally, you want your water temperature between 205 and 210 degrees Celsius. I'm sorry, definitely not Celsius. Fahrenheit. Don't go to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Celsius. You actually can't get that high. Anyway, the Chemex is great if you want a manual brewing method and you need to brew a bigger batch of coffee and has a high thermal conductivity, so it will pull a lot of heat out of your water as you're pouring. And like we just talked about, temperature is important not only for when you start pouring, but also as your coffee brews. So when metal pulls heat out of the water, you are taking heat out of your coffee, and a lower temperature can result in higher acidity. So if you're struggling with high acidity, you need to raise the temperature, and one way you could do that is by getting a plastic pour-over cone instead, because plastic has a very low thermal conductivity. They also make ceramic ones, but same issue there. They pull heat away much more readily. Okay, so that is the pour-over cone. This is for a single serving, so if you're just making coffee for yourself, this might be the way to go, and it's very, very affordable. Inside of the V60 or pour-over cone, you use one of these paper filters. Paper filters, I see the issue with, there's an environmental concern, but you can get recycled ones. They usually look like this. They're brown. They're made from recycled paper, so definitely less of a strain on the environment. If you do invest in one of these brewing methods, I would recommend thinking about whether or not it has or uses a filter. These paper filters will take out a lot of small coffee particulates from your brewed coffee, which means you're not going to get like sludge in the bottom of your coffee. And those particulates continue extracting as your coffee sits, so if you're a slow coffee drinker, you might experience bitter coffee over time if you use a paper filter. Paper filters also pull out coffee oils and some other compounds, but the oils in particular you might want to consider. Cafestol, I think is how you pronounce it, and kaweol are two oils in coffee that have been linked to higher cholesterol. So if you have health concerns, you might also want to go for a brewing method that uses a paper filter. I'm going to talk about French press in a second, and that is an unfiltered coffee. And you get those oils in your coffee, and they not only are linked to higher cholesterol, but they also contribute to a thicker mouthfeel. So if you like a dense cup of coffee or something that almost feels creamy, unfiltered coffee might be your jam. But let's take a look at the French press. So this is my French press. It is stainless steel, which is not ideal, but I've never seen a plastic one, and I don't know, brewing directly in plastic makes me a little nervous. And also cleaning plastic with the V60, you at least have a paper filter to keep it clean and separate the hot water from the plastic directly. But anyway, I have this stainless steel one. If you do buy a French press, make sure you get one that's double walled and insulated. So basically how this works is you take this plunger out, and at the bottom, I'm not going to take it out because it can squeak. At the bottom, there are these two metal mesh discs. So basically you take this out and you put your coffee grounds in, and you put your water in, and you wait 30 seconds, and then you stir gently, and then you wait until your brew time reaches 4 minutes maximum. That's my recipe. That's a common recipe online. You can adjust if you need to. So then at the end of those 4 minutes, you press down the plunger, and those metal mesh discs push all of the coffee grounds down to the bottom of the French press, and then you pour out the coffee on top, so you don't get the grounds in your coffee. Now you do get small coffee pieces, and that's going to leave some sludge in the bottom of your cup. why choose one brewing method over the other? I'm glad you asked. French press tends to highlight the darker flavors of coffee, so chocolate, hazelnut, caramel, raisin, the roastier flavors. A pour-over cone tends to highlight the bright, acidic, fruity flavors, and a Chemex is somewhere in between, but closer to the pour-over cone. Now, if these flavor profiles are not something that you ever even considered coffee could bring you, then I really recommend buying one of these and seeing how it goes. Invest in a grinder and maybe a pour-over cone. You can probably get a decent grinder for $50-ish, and the pour-over cone is like 12 to 15, I think. And just try it out, and try different specialty coffee around you from a coffee shop or a roaster, and see what you like. Okay, there's actually one other brewing method. Well, that's not true, actually. I have a manual espresso machine, or espresso maker, I guess. While I talk about this, I'm just going to tap on this little Dimitas. I have a manual espresso maker. It is, I think it's the Flare Neo 2. And I was very disappointed with it. It's very finicky, and I don't recommend getting that. I also have an electric espresso maker, or machine, upstairs. That's too big and clunky to bring down here. If you like espresso, then obviously go for an espresso maker. They are much more expensive though, and they tend to be more finicky in general too, even for the electric ones. I also have a clever dripper, which I forgot to bring down, I'm realizing, but that's okay. The other brewing method that I wanted to talk about, that I do have down here, is cold brew. This is a cold brew carafe. If you want to make cold brew, you do not need a cold brew specific piece of equipment. You can use anything at all. You can use a giant bowl if you really wanted to. Basically how this works is you put coffee grounds in, you put cold water or room temperature water in, and you cover it and let it sit at room temperature or in the fridge for 12 to 24 hours. The way brewing coffee works is you mix water with coffee grounds, and over time that water pulls out compounds from the coffee grounds. Oils, flavonoids, carbohydrates, sugars, caffeine, of course, and the rate at which those compounds come out depends on a few things, one of which is the water temperature. So the hotter the water, the more interactions go on. I'm not a chemistry buff, but the hotter the water, the faster that reaction happens, and the faster those things come out of your coffee. So that's why when you're brewing with hot water, you have coffee in 4 to 6 minutes. When you are brewing with cold water, that process happens much more slowly, which is why you need 12 to 24 hours. There are other things that affect the brew time and the extraction rate, like the grind size. So with espresso, you have really, really fine coffee, and so there are lots and lots of reactions happening rapidly, and that's why you can brew a shot of espresso in 30 seconds to a minute rather than 4 to 6 minutes with the thicker grind size. The cool thing about cold brew is you're not using hot water, so there's virtually no risk of breaking down those plant cell walls, and so those won't break down and you won't get bitter compounds. So if you struggle with bitterness in your coffee, you find coffee to be too bitter, I would recommend trying cold brew because it tends to be significantly less bitter. I think those are all of the coffee things I wanted to show you. I'm just making sure that I don't have anything else. It seems like that's it. I have lots of other coffee equipment, but I wanted to show you the basic brewing methods and kind of give you a feel of why you would pick each one. So, thank you so much for joining me. If you came from Ryan's channel, thank you for coming here and for checking out my video, and a very warm welcome to you. I'm very happy to have you here. And if you are returning, thank you for bearing with me if you watched my previous coffee video. I just felt like I needed to make this one specifically because a viewer asked for it, and because I wanted to kind